Nice to see your beautiful. Thanking you for being here. Explain what we're about to do, because this is the first session of a number of sessions that will happen every Friday between now and the end of summer. And our heart goes out to our dear Sheikh Adnan, who for the first time in 13 years, I believe, decided to pick up and travel to his homeland in Syria. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make his trip fruitful and pleasant and cheerful and inspiring. So when he comes back to us, he comes back more empowered to do amazing work for us, inshallah. So may Allah make his trip easy, and please include him in your dua, inshallah. Second thing I wanted to share with you very quickly before we start this conversation is, as you know, at Wellness, something that we're obsessed about is adding value and serving you, serving the most important person that walks through the door, and that is not Sheikh Adnan, that is not the board or leadership of this organization. It really is each and every one of you. We sit and we plan and we think and we ask ourselves, how can we add value? How can we make it more beneficial for everybody that we're blessed to serve? And this is what inspired this program. We call it the Community Conversations Program, which happens in between the prayers, between Maghrib and Isha. We figured that you would come and enjoy the best thing that we could do in this masjid, which is prayer, and that is the Maghrib prayer. Then we give you something of value in between the two prayers, and then you pray Isha, and you are off on your way to start your next day tomorrow. Inshallah, we will have some snacks and tea to make the experience a bit more pleasurable as well. So that's the context of why we're doing this. We're looking for community members who have skill sets that could be shared with other community members, so us, from us to us. And the talks are not going to be Islamic in nature, i.e. academic, or we're not going to be talking about Sharia and fiqh and tafsir. That's what Sheikh Adnan and the other shuyukh are experts at. But what we're looking to do is look for value-added topics. Today, it will be about habits and positive change. Next week, it'll be an introduction about artificial intelligence. We hear about AI and ChatGPT and Gemini. Well, we're going to have an expert, I would say, I want to say a national expert, but he's not going to like it when I say that, but at least a local expert that can not only lecture on the topic, but leads within his organization about artificial intelligence, so you'll be able to listen to that. The week after that, we're going to be talking about health and nutrition. How can you gain wellness physically in your body? Another session that's going to come up is about activism. We're lucky to have a number of people in London that traveled to Gaza and did activism there. They'll be here to share with us that experience from the broader perspective is, what can I do to serve this ummah? We're contemplating doing mental health discussions as well. So we've got a lot in store, inshallah. It will happen every Friday, bi'idhnillah, between today and the end of Friday in August, so all summer long. And we encourage you to come, to bring your friends, bring your family. We'd like to make this a family environment, and inshallah, everybody will benefit. And if you do have topics that you'd love to hear about, please grab one of us and just let us know what you'd like to hear, and we'll find the right resource to come and speak to us about that. The last thing I'm going to do is introduce today's speaker, and it gives me such deep pleasure to do that because you probably don't know him, but I've known him for way too long, and ever since I was a young kid. We had the pleasure of knowing Akhi Louei Ali, who is a dear brother of mine. He's not just my neighbor, he's my neighbor and the person I grew up with and the person I look up to. MashaAllah, Louei Ali is, I don't want to sit here and read a bio because I'm going to need 10 minutes to go through everything that he's done. But MashaAllah, he's a professor, he is a coach, a certified coach. He has 25 years of industry experience in sales and marketing, having led at places like Symantec and IBM and international experience in multiple countries in the Gulf, in Jordan, in Saudi, in Qatar. So we're very, very honored and blessed to have him here. He does this on a regular basis and does it within an academic and corporate context. And he humbly decided to do that with us here at Lil Old Wellness. So may Allah bless him for doing that. Without further ado, I'll pass it on to Akhuna Louei, who will take some time to give the presentation. He promised it's going to be interactive, not didactic. And if it's not, I'm going to start throwing tomatoes. I did warn him at Jum'ah. And then we're going to have a Q&A session, inshallah, and as well some refreshments. So that's the intent behind today. Thank you again for coming. We're honored that you would spend some of your Friday evening with us. And without further ado, Akhuna Louei Ali.
This one works?
It does. Yes.
All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I decided, or was I asked and voluntold? I think that's what they call voluntold, exactly. So I'm the reason why you're staying here until Isha. I don't think that's the reason, because Isha is late anyways. So you cannot claim that I'm the reason that's keeping you up. However, the intention is I want to make this as interactive, as interesting as possible, that hopefully we could learn something today. Now, 23 years ago, I was taking a course with IBM Canada. It's called Career Directions Workshop. One of these courses, they ask you a lot of questions. You get to fill out surveys. And day number 3, the teacher said, I want you to pull out a piece of paper and write down about your dream job. I was a good student back then, so I put my hand up and I said, how wild do you want us to be? And she said, you can be as wild as you want. I wrote that day 3 pages, and the teacher is walking around. Now, what do you do when you're doing a test and the teacher is walking around? You put your head down. You're hoping that she wouldn't even come close. That's exactly what she does. She comes close, she puts her hand out, and she said, may I? She wants to read. So I gave her the paper. She's reading, and she's nodding. And then she said something so profound. Until today, it rings in my ear. She said something so profound, it has shaped a lot of the decisions I made afterwards. She said, someone out there is doing this job. She read what I wrote. Someone out there is doing this job and they're loving it, but it's not you. What's your plan to change that? Someone out there is doing this job and they're loving it, but it's not you. What's your plan to change that? And that was very deep. And I'm going to walk you through the emotion that I felt across 23 years. See, I tell you the story now as if it happened yesterday. And here's the first impression. How would you feel? Someone else is doing the job of my dream and it's not me. I'm going to show you, I might feel a little disappointed. Maybe resentment even. I'm not suggesting that's not natural. That's normal. That's very natural. Years progress, and then something else begins to happen as a result of that conversation I had with her. For those who know about coaching, I start to question myself. Every month, every week, every day, I would say, what have I done this week, or what do I plan to do so I can propel myself in this direction? See, it's asking myself, what do I need to do so I can become that person? See, the first one is negative. I don't want to be here. The next one is probably the coaching style. The third one is the one I want you to focus on, which will take us on the journey that we're talking about today. The third one, simply saying, what if I was wrong? Think with me for a second. 23 years ago, I've written about the dream position that I was thinking. Have I evolved over the past 23 years? I think I have. If you ask me to write the exact same thing today, would it be the same? No. I have evolved over the past 23 years. What if I was stuck up on that position thinking I can only be happy if I achieve it? It doesn't work. Somehow, I need to work on enjoying the process, on enjoying the journey, on making sure I become the best version of myself. And today's topic, I'm going to walk you through that journey. And I want you to feel what I felt and how I developed certain things along the way. So I found that it's also part of Islam. So watch this. Here's Surah An-Najm. Only these 3 verses I want to show you. When it says, وَأَن لَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. So it is what I strive for. It's the pursuit. It's the perseverance. It's not the destination. You can set goals. I'm not suggesting don't set goals. However, it's the destination that you need to be careful about. However, what you need to be always vigilant of is the journey. What are you doing along the journey? What's more beautiful, this is Quran obviously, the next ayah. وَأَنَّ سَعْيَهُ سَوْفَ يُرَى. Your pursuit will be seen, will be uncovered. See, we're not talking results. With Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's the effort that you put. It's not the results. I come from sales. I did sales for the past 3 decades. If I went to my manager and I said, I've been working on this deal for the past 2 years and then something happened and it didn't come. That deal did not come. Would they accept that? They would say, you've wasted the company's resources. With Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's completely different. It's the effort that you put. وَأَنَّ سَعْيَهُ سَوْفَ يُرَى. And then the last ayah within Surah An-Najm, ثُمَّ يُجْزَاهُ الْجَزَاءَ الْأَوْفَى. Who will be more fair than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you what you deserve? So here's what we need to address today. That journey that we're talking about, that I'll take you on today, that journey requires that you perfect everything that you do. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ إِذَا عَمِلَ أَحَدُكُمْ عَمَلًا أَن يُتْقِنَهُ. Allah loves when you do something that you perfect it. And results are from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I wanted to set that stage so when I take you on the journey, you have the background. So let's begin this journey. Why have I selected technology to speak about now? It's because of this. Where's my wallet? If I left home without my wallet and I drove for 15 minutes, would I come back for it? Unlikely. But if I left home without this, you say, oh no, exactly. Now I teach at Fanshawe College. The way I log in is through this. The way I do my maps, the way I do my banking. I even grade assignments on my phone. So technology is a crucial part of our life. And I want to begin by mentioning certain facts I want to challenge you. And I'm willing to bet 90% of you don't know these or the answer. Probably 10% do, because maybe you've seen it before. So I'm going to show you the first one. What's your thoughts when you see this on the screen? Search engine. Anything else you notice? It's wrong. So you're suggesting Khalid asked me to come here and present. I don't even know how to spell. Yeah? Well, let me share this with you, and I want to know at the end if you knew this. Google, if I spelled this, you'd be happy with that. That's what you're used to. However, Google, it's 10 to the power of 100. The intention behind the name was that as Google, you go to a single website, and then you branch out to millions, even billions of websites. So the question is, what happened? This was a spelling mistake. They made a spelling mistake, and they kept it. So that's what we know, and this is wrong. That's not how it started. Please put your hand up if you knew this. One. So only one. So I was right. I said 90%, I said. All right. Who has an iPhone? Who's an Apple user? Okay. Okay, I see Apple users. Yeah. All right. Now, I'm willing to bet. Did you read 220 pages of the licensing agreement for iTunes? Who read that? Never. Maybe lawyers might read this. Now, I want to show you that this is what you're signing for. Would you believe me if I said, and I'm glad that this is the case, that we're signing that we would not use this license in the aid of the production of weapons of mass destruction, including chemical and nuclear. And you don't believe me? Here we go. It's right here. Design, manufacture, or production of nuclear missiles or chemical or biological weapons. How many people knew this? One? Anybody else? So I was right about the 90%, so thank you. Okay, I'm going to challenge you some more. See, because the intention is there's always an opportunity. As part of the journey, there's always an opportunity to learn something in every setting. If I take it to this one, I'm addicted to the phone. And we use it a lot, obviously. I told you, I even grade assignments on my phone. Now, sometimes when I'm sitting, I hate the way it sounds, so I always have it on vibrate. So I'm sitting at home, and then I feel the phone vibrating in my pocket. And then I reach to my pocket and I see nothing. The phone is not even there. What's happening? Have you had that before? Yes. Yes. You're addicted like me. Yes. Yeah, of course. I mean, there's a phenomenon, and I didn't know that. It's called the phantom vibration syndrome. How many people knew this? All right, Khalid, mashallah. Okay, anybody else? So the 90% still holds very true. Phantom vibration syndrome. Cadabra, from this, you know that this used to be Amazon. Okay, so I see nods, that means the story is known. That it was called Cadabra. Why? Because it's abracadabra. This is like magic. You ask for something, within 24 hours, it's at your doorstep. Khalid, I keep watching your packages, by the way. So, because he's my neighbor. So that's what it was called, abracadabra. It was called Cadabra. Now, the lawyers, when they heard people answer the phone, it was like, Cadabra, Cadabra. You know, it sounds like cadaver. Cadaver means dead body. And they were not happy about this, and they said, listen, Jeff Bezos, you need to do something. You have to change that. And that's why he sat with his wife, and he looked through the dictionary, and he saw the word Amazon. He learned it's the largest river, and he said, we're going to name it Amazon, because we want to be the largest company. How many people knew that? 90% still holds true. Now, I'll go back. I'm going to show you something. If you've seen it, I want you to tell me, and not to participate. If you haven't, because I don't want you to ruin it for those who have not seen it, because I will ruin it for you. I'll allow me to be that person. So I'm going to show you this, and tell me, put your hand up if you've seen that one before. Okay? I don't see many hands up. Could someone tell me, what do you see on the screen? Sorry? Rocks? Blocks, yes, exactly. Anything else? Sorry? Brick wall, yes, that's what I see also. Anybody sees anything else? Sorry? I've heard that one before. There isn't, but thank you for saying that. I've heard people seeing animals also. Small rock filling the gap. All right. Football. Oh, footpath. I've never heard that one before, but hey, maybe. You're free to see whatever you want to see. Now, when I show you, and you know what? I'm going to tell you what it is. See if you can see it, and then I will circle it for you so you would be able to tell. Can you see a cigar sticking out of the wall? You can see a cigar. Now you can. Did you see it before? Oh, you have. Oh, but okay. So here's, do you see this? If I go back now, you cannot unsee it. It will always be there. So that's why I said I'm going to ruin it for you, because if I go back and I ask you, now you see it. So there's always an opportunity to learn something. There's always an opportunity that's something you're not aware of. There's an opportunity to keep an open mind and to learn something. One of the most important things we need to learn is ourselves, knowing yourself. And believe me, and trust me, you know so much more than you think that you do. Now, I covered, the intention was I wanted to show you, in every situation, there's the possibility that you could learn something. But there's also a lot that you know. Now, please tell me what you see here. I see a man. What is the man doing? Putting himself in. Look at the hat. What does the hat show? He's thinking. Where is he thinking? He's thinking inside the box. So if he wants to be creative, where would he need to think? Wow. See, I didn't have to teach you this. You knew this. So I've shared information that you didn't know, but there's also information that you know. So he has to think outside the box. What is this? This is a camera. Which brand is it? It's a Kodak. Absolutely. So you knew this. I didn't have to share this with you. My father, years and years ago, told me, if you get 50 out of 50 in math, I'm buying you one of these. And it uses film. This is not digital. in any way. Now, I went online and I asked this. Here's what I said. I want to buy a camera. Which brand should I buy? Does anyone see Kodak on the list? It's not even there. Kodak does not even exist on the list. They did a lot of mistakes that we need to avoid ourselves, and I'll share a couple with you. When I say search engine, what did you say before? I know I showed you Google, you said search engine. It's the opposite now. So when I say search engine, Google comes to mind, obviously. So here's Google, spelled the way Google wants it spelled. Were they the first search engine? No, they were not. If you're my age, you'd know Netscape, Lycos, Yahoo, yes, these companies. So they were number 19 back in 1998. Now, how do you know a company is successful? Omar, would I tell you, would you mind searching the World Wide Web for the word fishing? Do I say that? What do I say? Can you Google fishing? So, Mr. AI, ChatGPT, are we going to have to invent new terminology now? Can you ChatGPT that one for me? Can you Copilot that one for me? These guys have been very, very successful. So now you're telling me I know this information. Why are you sharing what I know? And here's why. This one is a bar of gold. I know it looks like Snickers, but this is a bar. It looks like chocolate if you're hungry. And so if you don't know that this is gold, you're going to build a brick wall. And is this the best use of gold? Absolutely not. This is not. When you build a brick wall, when you know it's gold, and that's what I'm trying to drive home, that there's so much that you have on the inside, when you know it's gold, then every gram will matter. And that's what you need to be aware of. So I'm going to show you 4 things. All the answers are within yourself. If you're into coaching, if you've done coaching before, it's all about questioning. You come to me and you say you want to lose some weight. And I tell you, after you finish Fajr, go to the gym. Maybe it doesn't work with your schedule. You know, you have the answers, not me. I would ask you, which time can you possibly commit to and keep? It has to come from within. So all the answers are within. You are unique in your own way. You have to find out, what is this uniqueness? I'm going to show you one who discovered his own uniqueness, which is really funny. And if you are unique, you're part of a collective. If I'm your manager, I bring in certain skills. If you're my employee, you bring in certain skills. We complement one another. And that's why a salad, you can notice the tomato, you can notice the cucumber, you can see the lettuce, but collectively it makes a very nice salad. What's your gift? I'm not asking you to go and find something and then quit your job and go and chase it. I'm saying, if you know what your gift is, you will always find a way to do it. I love teaching, but I was working in sales. I always found a way within my client organization, within my company, to be able to teach the staff I worked with, or even my clients, my customers. Now, is it worth it to do this? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ, this is ayah in the Quran. I recognize it speaks about maybe the physiology, how long your veins are, the way that we see. But isn't it worth it also to look that we're made of nafs and we're made of ruh, that we know so much more than we think that we do? Absolutely. Have you seen this statistic before? 1 in 400 trillion. Has anyone seen that statistic before? 1 in 400 trillion. You have. This is, I've seen for the first time with Mel Robbins when she did the TED Talk, I think it was. This is the likelihood of you being born, who you are today, at your birth date, to the parents that you have, with the DNA strand that you have. It's 1 in 400 trillion. So the intention behind sharing this is to say, wow, the possibility of you existing the way that you are, who you are, you deserve that I ask you, what do you think? Because you have so much on the inside. Because the definition, I looked up the definition of a miracle, an event so unlikely to be almost impossible. You're almost impossible to happen. And as such, you are a miracle. And you have a gift. And it's your responsibility to find out what is that gift that you have. Now, the razor blade, because we all bring something different, is so sharp, cannot cut down a tree, but the axe is so strong, it cannot cut the hair. Until last night I came across this. The guy It's a video. I don't have the video, but I took a screenshot. He says, I use an axe because I want to be unique. The person uses an axe to actually shave people's heads. So he discredited everything I said so far. So it's interesting. He found a way to be unique, and he's famous, and people go to him for that purpose. As we go through the journey, who knows Imam Siraj Wahhaj? Yes. We used to call him the battery charger. So whenever Iman is low, it's like, where's Imam Siraj Wahhaj? And he said something about recognizing the sign. He said, as your son is coming home, your son might say, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. You're very happy, you're pleased. A couple of months would pass, and he would say, Assalamu alaikum. Okay, there's a change. You need to be able to recognize certain trends. Comes back again, he says, Assalamu alaikum. So that doesn't even sound Arabic anymore. Okay? And then he used to wear the cap a certain way, and then he's wearing it backward. Whom is he hanging around with? So what Imam Siraj was saying, you need to be able to recognize the signs that are put in front of you so you can take corrective action. If you're driving to Toronto, it's 200 kilometers away. And that's what the GPS says. And you look at the sign, that's what it says. And then you're driving, and then somebody tells you, oh, it says 300 kilometers. Am I heading in the right direction? How do I know? The sign? Because the sign, it says 300, it's supposed to say 180 maybe, but it says 300, I'm heading in the wrong direction. What do I need to do at that stage? I need to come, I slow down, I look at the area, and then I may have to come to a complete stop, and I make a U-turn. Doesn't matter how long I've been going in that direction. If it's wrong, I have to make that shift. I have to make that switch. I have to make that U-turn so I'm back in the right direction. Now, Kodak, they were so rigid, they did not want to make a U-turn. And they were unwilling to change. Have you seen this one before? Who can tell me what this is? Flash. Okay, I've heard that one before. Flash. What else? What do you think this is? Projector. It looks like one, yes. Oh, you're the master of imaging technology, yes. Anybody else? Sorry? Radio, okay. Great guesses. By the way, this is the very first digital camera that was created. And if you look in the back, they used to store the images like this. Does anyone know who created this? You might think Kodak's competition, and that's why Kodak is no longer in business. In fact, the one who created this was a Kodak employee, and his name is David Sassoon. His name is David Sassoon. You might also think he kept it to himself. He didn't share. No, he shared. And you know what happened, Kodak folks? But it was filmless photography. The management reaction, that's cute. Don't tell anyone. And as a result of staying in the past and not taking this corrective action, look what happened. They failed. They used to be 20 billion, went down to 1.3. I checked them last night, $930 million. Has nothing to do with imaging technology. They failed to recognize the sign, and that's why they're no longer existing. Now, I used to rent my movies from Blockbuster, and I used to rent them on this. I know you're not my age, but VHS tape. That's the one that we need to rewind when you give it back. And then I was watching the shelves move to this, DVDs. And then when we bought the DVD players, we were saying, oh, do you have this on DVD? Because the quality is actually better. And then they moved to Netflix. Now, Blockbuster at that stage, they need to recognize that something was happening. And they did. And they went to the investors, and here's what they told them. Investor concern over the threat of new technologies, like AI now. New technologies, that's overstated. Well, if you're going to be that type, you don't recognize the sign, here's what's going to happen. You fail to recognize the sign, and you will disappear. I'm going to skip that one, and I'm going to talk about the power of change. If you change nothing, don't expect things to work in your favor. You need to be the one who initiates. You have to be an agent of that change. I love this quote because from Warren Buffett. Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree long time ago. Are you planting trees? Are you thinking of the future? Because you would benefit from that tree. And you know what? Your offspring would benefit from that tree. What exactly are you doing now that would influence the future? And there's a quote I'm going to share with you from Steve Jobs that gets you thinking in that direction. Do we like change? Please tell me. Because usually, we don't. We love status quo. We love to be comfortable. Whenever somebody says, we need you to change the way that you do, no, I'm happy the way it is. So we don't like change, usually. So we seem to like what change does, or the impact of change. So I want someone to tell me, what do you think this is? I've heard a lot of interesting things. So what do you think? Car brake. I've heard that one before. I like it. Yes, I do change my own brakes, by the way, and it looks like that. Now, there's a man, I don't think you can see, but there's a man standing here. So I'm thinking if you want to take one of these, carry them, you probably would need 4 of these men. What do you think this is? I heard that one before, too. CT scan. Well, nice. Creative ideas, exactly. Well, this is the very first 1 gigabyte hard drive that was invented by IBM in 1983. The very first hard drive. Now, how many, you need 1 gig to have 1 movie, or maybe 2 gigs. So if I show you this, that's the transition, or that's the transformation. So we see, I'm going to take you back. Here's where we are. We don't like change. However, we're so excited about these changes because when we see the 5 megabytes back in 1956, or I counted the men, 13 men had to take a single computer to the customer when 13 of these computers and much more, they fit on this chip right now. So we seem to like what change causes, or the face of change, or how it positively influences our lives. Here's what Steve Jobs says, and imagine if we're always thinking like that. Everyone here has the sense that right now is one of those moments when we are influencing the future. This is someone who likes change, and this is someone who's able to see that my actions today, how it possibly could influence the future. Can you imagine if we're thinking like that? And I mean, this was Google back in 1998. That was their data center. And you can go and Google data centers now, and you would see they look like a scene from a sci-fi movie. I used to wait for Radio Shack flyer every Saturday, and I get excited. Yeah, I see some people nodding. I counted the technologies on this, and it was 14. Replaced by a single device, this one. Replaced all 14 technologies. So we say we don't like change, however, that's what change actually looks like. Now, how fast is it going? How fast? It's going very fast. I'm going to show you this chart. It's actually from 10 years ago. And I wanted to go and make some updates, but I thought it was so relevant still. It took 75 years for 50 million people to have a phone in their home. And watch how the graph goes. Facebook, 3.5 years. But then when we launched Angry Birds, 35 days. I checked before I came how many people downloaded WhatsApp. 10.1 billion people. They have WhatsApp, with the exception of Khaled Sultan, of course. Yes, he's the only one who doesn't have it. You always need to challenge your mindset. Always. Never fall for هذا ما وجدنا عليه آباءنا. It's always been like this. We've always done it this way. I can do a lecture on culture, and that's damaging. That's completely damaging if you always say, oh, it's always been done like this. Why? Challenge it. We need to challenge our mindsets. So I'm going to ask you, what is the world's deadliest animal? I need to hear some guesses. Snake? Snake is on the list. Bear is on the list. Scorpion is on the list. Sorry? Mosquito, absolutely. Yeah. You see, the mind doesn't go in that direction. We're not thinking mosquito. Even, by the way, this one also from 10 years. I went and I validated the numbers. They increased only slightly. So, for example, this one is now 600,000. This one is 800,000. I thought I would keep it. So, you see, the mindset usually tells you this. An animal, everyone was here. But actually, we're talking about a mosquito. We're talking about a human being. But your mind doesn't even think in that direction. So always challenge your mindset. If you think the same old thinking and the same old way, you will get the same old results. No question. And this is something I posted on LinkedIn a few weeks back, and I had a discussion with my students in class. This one here. And I love this one. I love it so much. The light bulb was not invented by continuously improving the candles. If I'm here, if that's all I'm thinking about, then I'm going to think, okay, can I make this longer maybe? Can I make this thread burn a little longer? Could I make it wide? Could I make this, instead of white, blue? See, I'm thinking within the boundaries of a candle. How do I make this jump? You need to be able to think the light bulb. Because that transition, you need to, exactly this. Don't look for the ideas that will confirm your thinking. Look for trends that will disrupt your thoughts. It's okay, because that's how the growth actually happens. You have to learn to fail. I tried to validate the story I'm going to share with you. Some people say it's Watson of IBM. The person made a huge mistake. It was a manager with IBM, and I think the cost, they said, was $10 million. That's the cost of the mistake this manager made. So they go into Watson's office with their resignation, because who's going to keep someone who made the company lose $10 million? And Watson told him this: you think I'm going to fire you after I spent $10 million on your education? This is management who knows how to allow their staff to make mistakes. Am I suggesting that you make mistakes? Of course not. But I'm suggesting that it's okay if you make a mistake, because that's how growth happens. Now, here's someone who knows how to make mistakes and how to fail. And I love this analogy, or this example. He went to Twitter before it was named X. And he said, I got denied by Twitter. That's okay. Would have been a long commute, trying to console himself. And then a few months after, this was in May, in August, he went to Facebook. Facebook turned me down. It was a great opportunity to connect with some fantastic people. I look forward to what next chapter of life shows me. Anyone knows who this person is? Sorry? What's his name? I'm going to show you. Oops. His name is Brian Acton. He said he's the guy who created WhatsApp, Brian Acton. Imagine if he got the job. You know how much he sold WhatsApp for? How much? 19. It was $19 billion. So he goes for the job interview, he gets rejected, and that's why this, what I'm going to show you now, manifests itself into this reality. Look, as I look back on my life, I realize that every time I thought I was being rejected, so failure, I was actually being redirected to something better. وَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُ شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. So if you have that trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as long as you've done your due diligence, and that's what I'm saying about the journey, you have to do your due diligence. Yusuf, we were talking about the test, and he was disappointed that he didn't think he did well on the exam. Did you study? Yes. Did you attend classes? Yes. Did you go every time and ask questions if you have? Yes. Yeah. Okay. If the result comes not to your liking, that's perfectly okay. Alhamdulillah. You learn from it and you move on. As long as you, but you don't play games with this. If you didn't do your due diligence, you have to also admit it. So I'm not going to leave you without a tool. So I'm going to give you a tool that you can use, and this is something that we call the Beckard formula for change. Has anyone heard that one before? The Beckard formula for change. So I'm going to give you an example. I use this in sales, by the way, and it works. And it's very simple. And some people complain it's way too simple. Because of its simplicity, maybe it doesn't work. I'm going to show you, and you tell me what you think. We need to overcome this. And this stands for resistance to change. Watch what's happening here. D, V, F. If any one of these values is 0, then this side becomes 0. So that's why we need a value to be bigger than the resistance to change. So let's give the example of your wife has an old car. Maybe this is a risky example, but I'm going to use it. So you have an old car, and she wants to convince you to get a new car. So there has to be an element of dissatisfaction. So one time you're watching the game with your friends and you're having a great time watching soccer, she gives you a call, the car broke down. Can you believe it? So she's telling you, can you imagine? She gives you now a vision. So you're not happy with the fact that you had to leave the guys and to leave the game. She showed you a little vision. By the way, can you imagine if we get a new car, I wouldn't have to call you. That means I can just rely on myself. See, she's building a vision for you, and then she might say, first steps. I've heard of some Islamic financing that's now available where you don't have to pay for the next 6 months. See, watch small first steps. Because if this was huge, if she said you have to pay $60,000 now, they will shy away. How do we use this in sales? CRM. I used to sell customer relationship management software. I would go to the customer and I ask them, how do you manage your customer data? And they tell me Excel. What? You're using Excel? What if you lose it? Is it in the cloud? What if the employee left the organization? You see what I'm saying? I'm building the dissatisfaction. And then I say, did you not hear that there's something called CRM, customer relationship management? The way you'd manage is 1, 2, 3, and it would save you 1, 2, 3. So I'm building a vision. Now they get scared. They have 150 locations. And I tell them, let's begin with only one, and I can give you a trial. So you can try, and you will see how successful you can be. You notice I built dissatisfaction. I showed them how great things can be, and I showed them that it doesn't have to be the world. This can be small, bite size. So important. وَقَلِيلٌ مِنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورِ. Few, very few of my slaves, it's an ayah in the Quran, very few of my slaves are actually thankful. If you focus on gratitude, you begin to see a lot more blessings. Because here's Sunday. When I was in Qatar, we used to say Saturday, so I had to change it for you. So Sunday, what happens usually on Sunday night? For tomorrow. Are you happy? You have an element of gratitude. But that's a very positive, a positive thing, exactly. But how many people dread Sunday night? Oh my God, I have to go to work tomorrow. Here's the line. I even wrote that one for you. I have to go to work tomorrow. You're disappointed that you have to go to work tomorrow. I mean, I experienced it myself. It's like, oh my God, tomorrow's Monday. And what do we say usually on Friday? We say TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. That's what we say because it's the weekend. But then Sunday signifies the end of the weekend. You know, gratitude, I was looking at this and I was just thinking, that statement itself has 4 blessings. When I say I have to go, here we go, I have to go. It means I'm not sick. I have the ability to stand up in the morning, I go and take a shower and get dressed and ride my car and I want to go. That in itself is a massive blessing that a lot of people are not blessed that way. And then if I say to work, have you looked at the unemployment rates in Canada, in London? So if you have a job that you want to go to and you say, I have a job, I have to go to work, that's the second and amazing blessing that you have. And then if you say tomorrow, that means you have the confidence that we live in a safe place, that you're still talking about tomorrow, because in different parts of the world, that's not the case. That in itself, look, 1, 2, 3 blessings that usually we dread because we don't have this gratitude. If you can read this, I did the math. I looked it up. 983 million people in the world do not know how to read or write. So just the mere fact that you can read this sentence or this statement, you're better than almost 1 billion individuals. See, the journey that we're talking about, the challenging of the mindsets, the gratitude, the openness, so much. There's so much that you can do as long as you don't tie yourself to a destination that every time it moves away, you feel like a failure. No, it's the effort, it's the perseverance, it's the pursuit that actually matters. Now, psychology says, and this works, by the way, try it. I don't like theories. Whenever we talk about theories, it's like, who's going to apply this? Honestly, this works. When you focus on problems, you will have more problems. When you focus on possibilities, you have more opportunities. If you walked in today and you were thinking, I'm going to waste my time, this is a waste of time. If that's what you were thinking, you would look for things to confirm that. And you would go to Dr. Muhammad and you would say, oh my God, I can't believe this. You will find things because that's what you're focusing on. You're focusing on problems. If you walked in and you said, there's the possibility I could learn something, you'll be waiting and looking for things that you can learn. And by the way, there's something, I'm going to give you the psychological name for it. If, Omar, we're sitting, Toyota Camry. You like Toyota Camry? What kind of car do you like? VW? So you and I are sitting and having a conversation, and then we say, okay, you know what? The next car I'm getting is a VW. Have you not noticed that there's this conspiracy? All the dealerships, they gather the night before, and they bring all the VWs close to your home? Did you notice this? Because every car that you see at that stage is a VW. And this is called, in psychology, I had to look it up today because I forgot, frequency illusion.
Actually, the weekend, last week I rented a car, first time driving this car. And I drove for like 600 kilometers. And for the first time, because of the car's nice, it's everywhere. So all of a sudden, I'm driving and I can see it everywhere. It's like, oh, it's right there. Oh, it's right there. Oh, I like this car.
You see? Frequency illusion. And by the way, if we didn't have, or if that was not the case, you wouldn't have seen them. So what we're suggesting is, whatever you focus on, according to psychology, you begin to see more of. If you're thinking, I have nothing but problems, life and a fashion, I have nothing but problems, you will continue to see problems. If you begin to say, there's got to be a solution for this, your mind automatically starts to think of solutions. So this is a very important phenomenon. It really works. So some of you might be the type who might say, what if I'm perfect? You're asking me to change things? What if I'm absolutely perfect? And I choose, as a result of my perfection, I do nothing. Could this happen? Yes. I'm going to show you, because we talked about Kodak, we talked about Blockbuster. It's not fair I don't mention Nokia. Okay? Now with Nokia, you guys remember when we used to have those were bricks. And they never die, these phones. And obviously the reason they no longer exist is because of the Apple and the Android and everything else. This is the CEO of Nokia. He was on stage giving a speech and he cried. And here's what he said. We didn't do anything wrong, but somehow we lost. This is dangerous. When you don't recognize that I didn't do anything wrong. Sorry? He absolutely, and you know what? I'm going to show you one slide. I'm going to show you the lessons that we learned from this statement. Things moved way too quickly, way too fast for them. So things are moving so quickly. I mentioned 10.1 billion using WhatsApp. How many people are on the internet? Population of Earth is 8 billion. We have 6.1 on the internet so far. I checked this morning. How many people are on AI? They used it at least once. 1.5 to 2 billion people. But at least once. It's not the paid version. At least they know what AI is and they're trying to use some of the applications. So things are moving way too quickly. That's one. They missed out on the speed at which things were going. They missed out on powerful learning. A few weeks ago, I wanted to learn some courses about AI. And I went on LinkedIn as part of my, what's the call? Exactly, with Fanshawe College. I took 17 courses, ranging between half an hour to an hour and a half. And so if you don't do that and you don't invest in yourself, you would be falling behind. And something else happened. See, you're missing out on how fast things are going. You miss out on so much learning. You miss your chance to change. And as a result, what happens? You miss your chance to survive. And that's exactly what happened with Nokia. What time is it? Okay. We're almost there. We'll exactly. Good point. All right. I'm going to close with this. A If you look at what we've learned from these situations, if you do not change, you will be removed. If you're not willing to take the action and to change, you will be removed. Kodak was removed. Blockbuster was removed. And these are companies. As an individual, you would need to learn from this. So if you don't change, you will be removed. If thoughts and mindsets, هذا ما وجدنا عليه آباءنا. If thoughts and mindsets don't catch up with time, you will be eliminated. And this is a perfect opportunity because of AI and how fast things are moving. Are you on the wagon or are you watching the wagon? Passes you by. What else? Advantages of yesterday will be replaced by the trends of tomorrow. The guy took the digital camera and he told them, guys, look what's happening. And they told him it's filmless photography. Filmless photography. So what happened here, advantages, they used to have the advantage, no longer, replaced by the trends of tomorrow. Are you able to spot and recognize those trends? And finally, this is what I want you to focus on, because that was the topic of today. You don't have to do anything wrong. But somehow, someone else will catch the wave and do it right. Someone else will catch the wave and do it right. Does this remind you of anything? Someone out there is doing this job, and they're loving it, but it's not you. There's something that you want, and it's not you. The question becomes, what is your plan to change that? Thank you very much. Any questions? If you have any questions, do we have time for questions? Okay, if you have any questions, I don't want to give you money, but you'll take the wallet. Yes, please. بعرف عربي. Is it okay, Khalid, ولا?
As long as you translate.
You'll do the interpretation. ولا يهمك، بالعكس اللغة العربية لغتنا الأم.
شكرا لك. يعطيك العافية.
الله يعافيك ويبارك فيك.
آخر 20 سنة أنا اشتغلت في الموشن ديزاين، وبعدين جاء الاي اي الحين، فصار إنه يعني الشغل اللي كنت أسويه مثلا ثانيتين أو 3 ثواني في شهر واحد ممكن يسوي الحين هو في ثانية واحدة. فالتغيير سريع وكبير جدا بالنسبة لنا ومخيف في نفس الوقت، لأن أحيانا الواحد يحط لنفسه أعذار إنه ما عاد بقي شيء من عمره عشان أتعلم شيء جديد يعني وزي كذا. في نفس الوقت إنه ما عندي الوقت أو مش الوقت إنما الخوف إنه التطور السريع اللي صار الحين. أنا أتذكر الأشياء اللي كنا نتعلمها كانت تأخذ فترة على بال ما يطلع إصدار جديد وتتعلم، لكن الحين صار كل يوم يطلع إصدار جديد من الاي اي ومن هذا. فالسؤال إنه كيف الواحد يقدر يتغلب على نفسه بحيث إنه ما يقعد يحط نفسه أعذار، بحيث إنه يظل يواكب العصر والتطور، لأنه ثقيل على النفس التغيير، خصوصا يعني تقول إنه في واحد جاء بالأمس بيسوي نفس الشغل اللي أنا أسويه في ثواني، يعني بدون ما الجهد اللي أنا قضيته في 20 سنة يعني.
مفهوم. So usually مش خالد بالعربي ولا بالإنجليزي؟ So the question is that things are moving way too quickly for us to catch up, and a lot of the skills that we currently have could be actually replaced. We don't have the time to make these changes. So what do I suggest as an action plan? Something like that? Okay. So usually, you know, if we are to sit in a coaching session, let's say, I would have a conversation with you, and I want to know, أو بدي أعرف مثلا المستقبل, how does it look like for you? يعني أنت شو الطموحات اللي عندك? What are you looking to accomplish? لو مدينا الخطوط مثلا سنة إلى الأمام, what would you like to see change? And what is standing between you and that change? So it has to be a very honest, الإنجليزي كويس معلش, we have to be honest with what is standing between you and that change. We need to find out the obstacles اللي بتتكلم عليهم, are they real or are they not? I'll give you an example. I was once watching a coaching session, one of the masters actually, and the lady wants to write a book. So she asked her, why is this important to you? Why do you want to write this book? Oh, okay, it's important, and this has been my life dream, and I want to do this. Okay, so what's stopping you? And nothing but excuses. She's just making excuse after excuse after excuse. And every time the coach is trying to find a way, there isn't a way. And here's what she said at the end. She said, Well, not everyone is meant to be an author. See, what she's trying to do is to say, well, you know what? If you want it, you will find a way. To be honest with you, as I mentioned in the presentation, if we don't take corrective action, we would regret not doing so. So it depends on the situation. How much time can you dedicate to learning? For example, in my case, I mentioned a few weeks back, I took 17 courses. Why? I was heading to a sales symposium, and I was thinking, what if somebody asked me a question I don't know the answer to? So I need to invest in myself. So it's difficult to answer a personal situation because we have to dive deep as to what is really stopping you. However, it's a matter of surviving or not, to be honest with you, because you can use AI to help you do your job, but if it's doing all of your job, you have to find a replacement. Okay.
We have a question here.
Yes, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaykum assalam.
My question is, you talked about the importance of jumping onto the wagon or else it will go by. My question is, as Muslims, we can't jump onto every wagon. It's very hard because we have ethical values that sometimes really stop us. And sometimes you feel like you're falling behind. So I guess my question is, how do you deal with that? You see people all going in one direction, but you know it's not the right direction and that's not what we were meant to do or be. So
I love that question. من ترك شيئا لله أبدله خيرا منه. You leave something for the sake of Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will replace it for you. When I went into account management, I was faced with rashawi that we had to pay, which alhamdulillah I never did. I was faced with a lot of haram being asked of me, and I wanted to quit. And I told those around me, I said, by the way, I don't think I can continue with this position because of this. And the guy gave me a beautiful advice. He said, well, if everybody does what you're doing, how are we ever going to have honest salespeople in the profession? Wallahi, that convinced me. And I stayed, and I was one of the most successful account managers for the company I was working with for the past 8 years, and I didn't have to do haram. Even I was having a negotiation with my customer once on the phone. And the guy's name was Abu Khalid. So I was having a conversation with him, and then he says, Louei, I'm sure you can do better with the pricing. I said, Abu Khalid, wallahi, that's the best I can do. Then the guy who was sitting with him, he told me, Louei, you know, he said, stop. Louei said, wallahi. That, meaning, Louei would never lie. Because of this, I went back to my company and I asked Muhammad Amr, and I told him, Muhammad, I used Allah's name, and please tell me if there's anything that I need to go back to this customer and say. And he goes, no, you told the truth. So I'm thinking, stick to your guns, do what pleases Allah, and that's the most important.
Assalamu alaikum, Ustaz Louei. Shukran. Thank you so much for this interview. Just Yusuf.
Barakallah.
Allah yabarak feek. So I wanted just to highlight this equation, the Beckard-Harris formula, that I found extremely useful for personal change. My question is, can we apply it for social or community change as well? In the sense that we want positive social change in our community, the importance of having a clear vision for the future we want to go, also having a high level of dissatisfaction of pain with the reality we're living now, and having also an action plan on the short term, so probably 18 months. And would you change this formula, or would you keep it? Are there any things you would do to adapt it to social or community change?
You're mentioning one of the things that people complained about this formula. They're saying it's way too simple or simplistic for organizations. And I'm thinking the power of this is the fact that it's so simple. I actually used it in Qatar for World Cup. And I said, look at this. The dissatisfaction, no Arab country has ever held the World Cup. So this is dissatisfaction, a vision. Someone said, could we possibly do it in Qatar? That's a vision. And then you have to, what would be the first steps? So it has to be bite-sized. It begins as an idea. So in my humble opinion, yes, to get you started. However, will it carry you through? I think you have to rely on something a lot more complex. This is only to kind of get you on the right foot, and then eventually complexity would hit you. Okay?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullah.
What I want to mention is change is good and it's very necessary for change, development, progress, everything. But now what is going on is the change is not about technology or progress. Now the change is controlled by governments and by monster companies. And the government, they are supporting these companies. So whenever there is a competitor, new ideas, change, whatever, which be against the master company, you have two options. Either you sell it for them, this master company, to keep controlling everything, and you will be somehow destroyed. Okay? So it's not a fair play, fair game anymore.
Correct.
Okay? So now everything is business. It's not technology, it's not change, it's business and government. You know what's happened between China and US?
Yes.
Okay, so that's it.
So it's a comment or a question?
It's a comment.
It's a comment, yeah.
It's a comment, but
Valid.
at the end of the day, now everything is turning to business. Is not progress or development for the humanity, for the people, for country, poor countries, for third world. It's the first world now is controlling everything.
Yes. And this awareness that you mentioned should at least, to be aware in itself, just the awareness itself brings a lot of value, for sure.
First of all, Jazakallah khairan. I think you've set the bar very high for the next few sessions, inshallah, so it's going to be lots of fun. I have a question. On one of your slides, you mentioned a sort of like a personal gift, as part of the thing. And that actually kind of resonated with me. And I'll just try and explain my question through an example. I'm a physician, I'm a radiologist.
Inshallah.
My mentor, may Allah have mercy on him, Dr. Asif Saifuddin, was one of the best MSK radiologists in the world. And before he passed away, he published like 400-500 papers.
Rahmatullah.
And he was my mentor, and he would always make fun of me. And he would say, "Oh, Imran, I produced like 2 books when I had 4 kids, and you just have 3 kids, and you've only published like X number of papers." And the reason I say that is because obviously now I'm working in an academic hospital. So we used to have a lot of conversations, and I used to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed certain people with certain skills. And I used to sit with him and I used to watch, and he had amazing memory and understanding of the literature that he would read, and he would come up with research ideas, like he would be publishing papers left, right, and center. And I would say to him, Dr. Saifuddin, Allah has blessed you. I don't think Allah has blessed me with that. I can work like a horse, but you're different. But now I'm in a different situation. Now I have to publish paper as part of my academic thing. And that brings me to the question that, obviously certain people, I do feel that they have certain gifts. But as doesn't really matter, because I am now in a position where I have to get over that fear and that sort of, what I'm trying to say is that you sometimes put yourself in a mental block that you're not good enough, or you were not blessed with that kind of skill set or that understanding or that comprehension, whether it's research as far as I'm concerned, or whether that's some other specialty, somebody working in sales or somebody working. How do you get over that block? How do you tell yourself, okay, you may not be as talented as the other person, but you can do better? It's not like I'm not trying. I'm coming to this productivity party a little bit late in my life. I'm reading a lot of that, and this session has been very valuable. But any advice for people like myself who want to do better, who may not be as good as their contemporaries, but are not shy to make the effort, but somehow there's always that, drag back to say, yeah, you're not Dr. Saifuddin, if you know what I mean.
I believe the biggest issue is the fact that you're comparing yourself to somebody else. Remember that slide I showed, that red flower? I said you're uniquely different, the axe versus the razor. So if you're comparing yourself, then I don't think that's what would work. It's finding your unique value, and it's unique to you. If you begin to compare, he did and she did and I didn't, it doesn't work like this, because we all bring, I mentioned, if I was a manager, I bring a certain set of skills. The employee isn't any less. They bring different kinds of skills. We complement one another. So I would say find what is it that when you like to do what you like to do, or something that you like to do, even if you do not get paid for it, you're still okay doing it. For example, I did these presentations to multiple companies at absolutely no cost. I just love doing it. So I thought, this might be a gift. I enjoy this. And I'm not comparing myself to anybody else. I'm not Simon Sinek, I'm not Steve Jobs. However, I found a niche that I can talk about, and I never compare myself. Do I seek to improve? Yes. But I never put myself down and say I can never reach that level. And by the way, when it comes to training, when I did my first speech, I noticed I went to the office and I did 25 rehearsals. And it was 40 minutes. 25 times 40. And I was like, that means probably I'm not cut for this. This is not for me. And then I went and I did some research. And I wanted to see, how do I compare to somebody else? I went, Steve Jobs, before he goes on stage and launches the iPhone, he trains or he practices 100 times. And I went and I validated this. So it's practice. It's recognizing what is it that you enjoy to do. What is it that you're naturally good at? Are you willing to do it for free? And then eventually doors begin to open. But I would never compare myself to somebody else. Please.
One of the problems is that we always have to compare ourselves to peers. And you have to have a jump-off point, but the jump-off point shouldn't be someone else. It should be you,
Nice.
right? So I always tell my students, if you want to compare yourself to someone else, compare yourself to yourself yesterday.
I love it.
If you're better than yourself yesterday, you progressed, right? So
Yes,
it's
and
just
that's
a
called,
little-
I
little
think
comment.
Mel Robbins calls this the progress principle. As long, if it's 5%, if it's 1%, by all means.
And if that was helpful, he's the speaker next week who's going to talk about AI. So please
Can
come.
hardly wait. I'll get you back.
Thank you for your talk earlier.
You're welcome.
I know you mentioned that we need to initiate change, and we're living in an age where change is so super fast, super quick. My question is, when we as individuals initiate change, especially when it's like big change, how do we deal with the not just consequences, it's just the impact that it has, not just on ourselves, but on the people around us and the community that we live in? Especially when it's a big community, you might have some people who are not ready for change, like you mentioned earlier.
100%, which is the reason why, let's see if I can get back to the formula. It was crucial. Here we go. This one. See, the resistance comes from the fact that it's too complicated. You mentioned you're doing way too many things. People are objecting to what you're trying to do. There's so many obstacles. We're saying if there's an element of dissatisfaction, you're able to build a vision of we all agree that this is the right thing to do. However, if it's too big, people shy away. Make it as small as possible. And I think we can take wellness as an example of the great things that they do. They start small, and then eventually they expand. So I would say focus on the F, which is first steps. When you try to do too many things at once, you will always, what's going to happen is this resistance to change actually grows. Okay? Anybody else?
طيب, it's, can I get a round of applause, inshallah? Jazakum Allah khair. It's a great pleasure to have you here. I think I speak on behalf of everybody when we said we learned a lot. May Allah bless you. May Allah give you the sincerity of intention and the purity of heart. It is Asha time now. A big thank you to Louei, and a reminder that this is going to happen every single week, inshallah, between now until the end of summer. And we have Akhuna Muhammad, Dr. Muhammad, who's going to be giving us a talk about AI and how good and great it is and how we can implement it in our lives. I don't want to throw him under the bus because he's still working I did already. So please make sure you attend next week, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair, and we'll go for salah.